Good morning, my diamonds and my Teletubbies. Today I have got to talk about boundaries. We're often told that boundaries are important for our safety and our well being, and that's true to an extent. But not all boundaries are sensible and reasonable, and that's what I want to talk about. Some boundaries are more about trying to control people than keeping them safe. Some boundaries are just they're just straight up ridiculous. Now, think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where someone set a boundary that just didn't make any sense at all? Let me give you an example. For instance, their boundary is they don't want you to tell the truth about anything. They won't admit it, but they don't want to have anything to do with the truth. And everything you say and everything you do, it's got to be about validating, praising, and blowing smoke up their behind. That's their boundary. Another controlling and ridiculous boundary is that they don't want to have anything to do with reality. And when you take them out of their bubble, their fairy tale world, that's considered crossing their boundaries. I don't eat gluten. I'm allergic to gluten. And if you eat that kind of stuff, you're not into the same healthy thing that I'm into. So, issues. Things like that. Stupid things. These kind of boundaries aren't about protecting themselves. It's about trying to control people. It's important to recognize that when boundaries are being used as a way to manipulate or to restrict your freedom, you have to be mindful of these things. Just because someone says it's a boundary, that doesn't mean that it's justified. It's okay to question people's boundaries that don't make you feel right, to be yourself. People have to set healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries is about respecting yourself and other people, and it's not about exerting power over someone else and trying to control and manipulate people to do and say everything that you want. Anything that you want to hear. A lot of these people, especially these adult children, they don't want you to tell them what they need to hear. Tell them what they want to hear, or you're crossing their boundaries. You're disrespectful. Your apology is not sincere. That's just manipulation for them, again, to try to control you. Don't fall for it. It's about communicating your needs and limits in a clear and a respectful way. And they consider you disrespectful anytime you're not telling them what they want to hear. It's not about trying to turn people into what's noted. You see, this is where I'm having a problem with my family members, because you're trying to turn me into John chapter 8, verse 44. And that's to become a liar. That's to become fake and phony. Anybody who's fake and phony and who are into niceties, that's a liar. Satan, the devil, don't want to have anything to do with the truth. You hear me? Nothing. If a person needs people to constantly validate and agree with everything they say, they need to be in therapy and not accuse people of constantly disrespecting their boundaries. This is a sign that that person, to be honest with you, they lack maturity. They'll accuse you of being emotionally immature. No, sweetheart. I promise you, there's nothing emotionally immature about SheilaTruelove. I'm thick-skinned. I can handle someone disagreeing with me. I can handle someone correcting me. I don't have a problem with somebody trying to help make me better. I say thank you. I appreciate it. But a lot of these people who they say that you are disrespecting their boundaries, they need to be in therapy, and they need to stop accusing people of disrespecting their boundaries, because like I said, this is a sign that the person is suffering from arrested development and they really need to grow up to maturity. That has nothing to do with other people disrespecting them, crossing their boundaries, trying to be difficult, calling people argumentative because they don't agree. Are you kidding? So next time someone tries to impose a boundary on you that feels off and you know that it's unreasonable, you have to trust your instincts. Not all boundaries are reasonable. And it's important to stand up for yourself and stand up for yourself and stand up for what you know is right. I consider myself to be a kind person. I'm no longer a nice person. I used to be in the past, but thank you, Jehovah and Jesus, I'm not like that anymore. I'm a good person now. I'm a genuine people. I'm going to keep it real with you if I love you, and even if I don't. I'm of no value to you anytime I'm blowing smoke up your behind, telling you what you want to hear, tickling your ears, but the Bible says that too. You're going to have people who are going to want to lean more towards people who tickle their ears. They don't want to have nothing to do with the truth, and don't you dare come to them with any kind of reality. Don't you dare. Remember, boundaries, it should be about creating a safe, respectful environment for everyone involved. It is never crossing someone's boundaries if what you're saying is based on the absolute truth. You've done the research, you've got the stats, you got the numbers, you're not giving opinions, you're stating facts. That's not trying to disrespect you. Don't let anyone use their boundaries as a tool for control. Stay true to yourself and your values, and don't be afraid to question people's boundaries that don't sit well with you. Remember, boundaries, it should be a two-way street. Don't sit up here and tell me to respect your boundaries, but you don't respect mine. You're allowed to speak and say whatever's on your mind, because I'm emotionally mature enough to let you have your say what's on your mind, but that works both ways. I should be allowed to say what's on my mind without having to have fear I'm offending this person. I've got to walk and talk on eggshells with this person because they take everything out of context. They always assign bad motives to you. It's a two-way street, like I said. It's about finding that balance between taking care of yourself and respecting other people. So don't be afraid to push back when someone tries to push you around in the name of boundaries. And you know, I'm thinking about the millennial generation and Generation Z. I did my research. Yeah. They are the most depressed, the loneliest, anxiety-ridden, and guess what? The suicide rate, they was already at the top of the list when it comes to suicide. Harry Carey. But it just rose to 35%. So when this millennial generation and Generation Z want to talk about previous generations, I don't think you have any room for that. I mean, this is a generation who has all of these boundaries. Don't take my word for it. Go on social media. Disagree with something someone says and watch how fast block, delete. This generation, the millennial generation and the Generation Z, they are the me. It's all about me. It's all about throw away. You see, the baby boomer generation wasn't about throw everything away. You got to work, put some work into it. And don't say that the baby boomer generation didn't have boundaries. They had boundaries, but they weren't extremist. They were realistic. A lot of people back then put up with a lot of abuse that they should not have, but then a lot of people are doing that now. Look at divorce court. Look at Dr. Phil. They're putting up with a lot of crap too. They're willing to work through it, whatever. 35% of these millennials and Generation Z are miserable because of these new boundaries. Everything is a boundary, honey. You're not allowed to disagree, and you better not go near reality because you're done. You're caught. It's like some people, they use boundaries as a way to control others instead of actually keeping them safe. They're not thinking about being safe. I got to protect myself. I got to be safe. Safe from what? People what? Hurting your little itty bitty feelings? I can see if someone is physically violent. I get that part. But you don't have to be safe and hide yourself away from the truth. That's not healthy. And you're never going to grow emotionally if you keep surrounding yourself with people who are yes people. People who are lapdogs. Your puppet. You're never going to grow emotionally. Never. Never. That's right. Instead of actually keeping them safe, they're really trying to control you. Like, sorry, Tony, but just because you don't like my viewpoint or the facts that I'm sharing with you, that doesn't mean you get to dictate what I can and what I cannot say. It's all just this big power trip, if you ask me. Like, oh, I'm going to set this boundary and make everyone follow it because I said so. What? Whoa, what? What? Yeah, well, guess what, Brenda? I'm not going to stop speaking the truth. I'm going to continue speaking the truth, and I'm going to continue living in reality because I'm mature enough. See? You see how that works? I'm mature enough to handle that. So let's challenge those unreasonable boundaries and strive for a world where our boundaries are respected, reasonable, they make sense, and it's got to be truly about keeping yourself safe, protected, and happy. Now, let me tell you about my non-negotiable boundaries and tell me if I'm being reasonable, sensible, or am I just cray-cray? My first boundary is you must be on Jesus' team. And I can tell if you're truly on Jesus' team because guess what? You're practicing Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. Don't do to people what you don't want done to you. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Is that reasonable? Number 2, don't put your hands on me. That's a boundary. Number 3, you can't be abusing alcohol. I came from a history with alcohol, being a problem drinker, being a Jehovah's Witness. 75% of Jehovah's Witnesses have issues with alcohol. They're either a full-blown alcoholic or they are a problem drinker. Some people don't know the difference. They need to, work on that. Anyway, don't be abusing alcohol. And how about this? This is like a huge boundary of mine. Non-negotiable. When I say no, it's no. Don't try to get me to change my mind. If it's one thing about me is I don't straddle the fence. I don't have one leg in and one leg out. I know exactly what I want. And I don't need anyone to try to change my mind. Please, when I say no, that's okay. Respect that. Don't steal from me. Is that reasonable? That's a reasonable boundary. Don't steal from me. No drugs. I don't care whether it's weed. I don't care whether it's edibles. I don't want no drugs of any sort. I can't be bothered with people turning schizophrenic, psychosis, paranoia, and all of this other stuff that's going to, no, that's going to be a problem. That's a boundary. I don't do drug people, and I don't do people who abuse alcohol. And when you're a pathological liar, you can't trust a pathological liar. Now, I understand people fib from time to time. We all fib. How are you today? Oh, I'm great. And you might not be. How was your weekend? It was amazing. And maybe it wasn't. That's a fib. But a pathological liar who's lying about things unnecessarily, people who are fake and phony, yeah, you know who you are. Fake and phony, niceties. That's a form of being a liar. And another one, the last one, is don't abuse animals. Is that reasonable? Or am I just like extremist? That's just 8 things. That's a deal breaker for SheilaTruelove. Make sure that your boundaries are not about control, and it really is about trying to protect yourself. And that's all I had to say about that. I had to make this video because I'm hearing too much of this boundary, that everything is a boundary. Don't disagree with me. You better tell me what I want to hear, or you're deleted. Throw them under the bus. Bye. You know what? Bye. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Twinkle, twinkle, twinkle.